We've talked about where we stand. We've talked about where the administration might stand, but where does the fan base stand? Let's officially check the pulse.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Happy Friday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. First of all, I want to thank all of our listeners to the abundance of comments we've gotten on our post this week. So many to choose from that it made it very difficult to only pick 5 for Fan Friday.
This was by far one of our most difficult to pick the comments for Fan Friday.
This might be the most comments we've ever had in a single week. That's how many we're talking here. As you might imagine, the majority of the topics here, actually, I think all 5 of them are in regards to Kevin Keatts and his job security and the state of the basketball program. It's important, I think, to listen to all sides of this story. The physical story is what we've seen on the court. I think behind the curtain story is talking about what the administration might see. The third part of this story is how the fan base feels about it, because whether you want to believe it or not, the fan base does have a lot of weight in these types of decisions. So we wanted to check the pulse. Fan Friday might as well just be sponsored by the basketball program and Kevin Keatts, but without further ado, let's get into it. First one comes from Richard English. He says, I just cannot imagine the fan reaction if Keatts is given another year. I'll tell you what, it's going to be fascinating to watch what transpires over the next week and a half to 2 weeks. All eyes are going to be obviously on the basketball program as they play their last regular season game at Pitt on Saturday. Then next week, you have the ACC Tournament. NC State has obviously slid back down the ACC standings. Very well could find themselves playing on Tuesday. In fact, I think they might already be slotted into a Tuesday spot. Depending on what they do in the ACC tournament, they're not going to win all 4 games. We can likely say that with some confidence. It's going to be fascinating to see how quickly the fan base will be chomping at the bit for some type of answer on the situation next week.
Richard, Mr. English, whatever you would prefer to be called, I have surprising news for you. The more that I try to get tapped into this situation and figure out what's happening, the more I'm hearing, you better get ready to imagine it. Or actually, your imagination won't have to do the heavy lifting much longer in terms of what happens if Keatts gets another year here. I can imagine it, and I feel like it'll be a mix between anger and I don't care anymore. Stick a knife in my back. Drive the knife a little bit deeper than it already is. It's pretty much where this fan base will very likely be, according to the sources I've spoken to on this. But again, there are no guarantees that he comes back. There's no guarantees at the moment, but it's very likely he does come back.
If he is to return, basically take what you've already seen on social media and maybe even in person and probably double it. And that might be what you get for fan reaction purposes. The next one actually is a perfect segue. This one comes from Christian Noonan. Says Keatts is too busy blocking the fan base on Twitter than he is coaching our team. He's lost our fans after this season. He just doesn't fit here at NC State any longer. And I think this is interesting because I obviously have seen a lot of fans tweet screenshots of Kevin Keatts blocking them on Twitter, which I find amusing. But there is a very real aspect to this that the optics around that are not great. And when you're struggling on the court and you've been here for 7 years And this program has struggled for decades on end now. It's in the event that he does return next year, hypothetically, it's going to be so hard to win back the fan base. We talked about how apathy has set in. A lot of the fan base is checked out. And that's the reality. I think regardless, he's just not going to get a fair shake. That's just how we stand right now.
They say love covers over a multitude of sins. Well, winning does the same thing for coaches. And if Keatts is bought back and he, messes around and has his best season as a coach at NC State, I think that the fans will start to ease up a bit. The only problem with that is we're assuming that you have an outlier for the positive instead of just being he is who he is. I don't foresee year 8 being something crazy that years 1 through 7 were not. So I do agree. It's time to pull the plug. It's time.
Next one here comes from an idiot. And no, I'm not calling him an idiot. That is legitimately their handle. It is an idiot 936. So thank you, an idiot, for commenting here. Their comment is, one pro/con, there seems to be a disconnect between the fan base and the university. We have an AD that doesn't speak up for our players and teams. So we talked about Boo Corrigan, I believe it was either last week or the week before, and there is this belief that Boo Corrigan is not doing anything, that he's not doing his job, and he doesn't speak up for the teams that have been, quite frankly, shafted by the NCAA multiple times. And Kenton and I both believe that that's not exactly the case. He just prefers to do things behind closed doors. He's not vocal on Twitter. He takes a very professional approach to things. But where this ties in is in the event that a coaching decision is going to be made here in the next couple weeks, you're going to see Boo Corrigan have to go through this process for the first time on a major hire. You might have to see Boo Corrigan lead a coaching search, and I'll be fascinated to see how the opinions on him may shift in the event that happens.
Oh, they're definitely going to shift one way or the other. I'm going to tell you this right now, okay? Boo Corrigan will either hit a home run or a strikeout. That's what's going to happen here.
No singles in the right field, huh? None whatsoever.
No frozen ropes in the gap. None of that nonsense. I have never heard any NC State fan say this is our year for a national championship in any of the major 4 sports.
Not one.
And that includes women's basketball, where we were 3-time back-to-back conference champions. And I didn't hear anybody say, oh, yeah, we're for sure winning a national championship. Can Westmore get over the hump? What you think? Is this easier to get over the hump and kind of get off that tourney snide? And so these fans, Wolfpack Nation, as much as people call us delusional, I don't think that anybody is expecting the next coach to come in and instantly elevate us into one of the top 4 brands in all of college basketball. They expect that head coach to come in and have us be a consistently winning program. Winning is hard, yes. Winning is not an easy thing. If winning was easy, everybody would do it. It's not, though. Somebody has to be on the other side of that thing, night in and night out. And so I say all that to say, if he hires an actual winner, a consistent winner, he'll be heralded, he'll be loved, he won't need to speak up, he won't need to do all the things. If he hires another Keatts or worse, another coaching search, or not search per se as much as a promotion coming down the road, we all know Coach Avid, for all he's meant to the baseball program, at some point in time, nothing lasts forever, right? And so if he's got all of these winners coming back to back to back, he's got Westmore winning, he's got Coach Doran winning, he's got whoever the men's basketball coach is winning, he's got whoever the new hire for baseball is winning, people will stop caring that he isn't, that guy that's vocal and loud.
Next one comes from David Edwards. He says, I would like to hear you guys discuss who is coming back next year and if there's any update on MJ Rice. Rice plus the 2 recruits is a definite pro to Keatts coming back. Or should we assume Rice is done? So MJ Rice, who redshirted very early in this season, didn't get to see a whole lot of him. That is a delicate situation. Obviously stepped away from the team due to mental health reasons. If he is coming back or he's not coming back, all we can do is wish him the absolute best. That's no laughing matter. We certainly hope he gets right, gets back to where MJ Rice believes he should be on the court. That is ultimately the most important part of this. I will say this. There is a very documented list of top-level recruits that have either never made it to NC State, changed their decision to be here at NC State, maybe redshirted at NC State. We know all of this. So just calling a spade here, a lot of Wolfpack fans are not going to have much confidence that he does return. All we have right now is what we can take at face value. He said he will return that next year, just redshirting this year. He's back next year. We'll see how that goes. The Keatts aspect in this throws kind of a wrench into the whole expectation type thing. Long story short, it's too early to know. There are some that make more sense than others. I do agree on that, but it's too soon to know. We don't know if Keatts is coming back. We don't know if Keatts is gone. We don't know who is coming back. We don't know who might be already thinking about transferring. We don't know at this point in time. You might start knowing in about a week and a half or 2 weeks, but as we sit right here on March the 8th, it is too soon to know.
I get it, Wolfpack Nation. We are having flashbacks and quote unquote seeing red when we see an MJ. When we see an MJ get into the red shirting game, and we start asking, is he coming? Is he staying? Is he going? What's going on here? I understand. And as we continue to hear more information and get this information, we wish MJ the best in whatever he does. And we really do hope that his mental health does work out in a way that he's allowed to be his best self, whatever that looks like. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I genuinely hope MJ Rice, finds whatever it is or gets whatever it is that makes him his best. In terms of players coming back, I basically am going to be an echo of Grayson. It's too early to say because the information that we have is based on certain plates staying in certain areas and not moving and not going elsewhere, because it's in the world of college sports, how mercurial things can be.
Yeah.
And if this situation is to have one or two things go differently than we know of right now, then obviously who's coming back and what's going on will be very different. So, David, we'd love to give you 1,000% confident answer. And this is the way it's shaking out. This is the way that it's not. But there's two problems with that. Number one, we're dealing with a lot of 18 to 23-year-olds. So I don't know if you got kids or not, but they're not the most stable group of people in terms of like how they feel today will be how they feel in 2 weeks. And number two, there are multiple factors at play that are not fully settled out here for us to say who is or is not coming back.
Last one here comes from either John Labus, John Labus, or John Labus. Sorry, John, you can yell at me in the comments. His comment is, it's like the transition is complete. NC State is now completely a football school. And all it took was Steve Smith opening his mouth on national television, Dave Dorn telling him to do you know what, and look where we are now. NC State wins 5 in a row to finish the season, 9-3. Football is now sitting at a height that maybe they've never been before. And then we have basketball. We are still stuck in our purgatory. Kenton, do you think it is safe to say that NC State is officially a football school?
Grayson, there's been something that I've lacked, okay? And there's been something that as your co-host, I must apologize to you and I must apologize to our listeners, because there's been something that made our relationship special that I haven't brought out in quite some time.
I have no idea what you're about to say.
But here is my answer to this question. Is NC State a football school? NC State is a women's basketball school. As much as you may not want to accept it or like it, in terms of the big four sports, nobody, and I mean nobody, has success like Old Westmore and the gang. And I know the reasons that many people don't want to accept that and say we are that kind of school, but that's what it is. Now, if you're asking between football and basketball, and if you're just talking men's, which are we? Yes, we're obviously a football school. But if we're talking all our big four, I know that Coach Avon took him to Omaha and a few years ago and has been on fire on the recruiting trails when you just thought like, oh, he's done now. I know that Coach Doran is building this program up and having expectations like we've never seen before in Raleigh. Coach Keatts is Coach Keatts, and the basketball team is basketball team. We'll skip right past that one. There's no way that you could look at any other team and say this school is anything but a women's basketball school. I know I ain't gave y'all a sign in a while, but there you go. The signs are back, baby.
We might be in everything but the Power 4 school. We're elite in wrestling, elite in swimming, elite in women's cross country. Tennis is on the rise. Softball, can't forget softball.
Grayson,
Gymnastics.
you're not wrong. You're not wrong, but you didn't have to say it. You didn't have.
This is not to discredit women's basketball at all. Obviously, they have been the crown jewel of the Power 4 here at NC State. They had their three-peat in the ACC championship. They're still working on making a little bit extra noise in March Madness. Who knows? Maybe this could be the year. We did talk about the status of all sports at NC State about a week or so ago, and the floor in basically everything has raised. So ultimately, I mean, would Kenton and I like it to be a football school? Yeah, absolutely. We are dying to win something in football, especially, but many people probably feel like we are a football school, especially with the off season and this, that, and the other. I get it. I could see it being a football school. So I don't know. Maybe the football team will have to either prove that on the field this year, or maybe we are an everything else school. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Coming up next, we are talking about the women's basketball team. They begin their ACC tournament quest on Friday, and we now know their opponent. It is Duke. It's time for a little get back. We're talking about this after a quick word from our sponsor. First sponsor of the day is Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV offers amazing viewing experience with smart TVs, as well as the Fire TV stick that you can plug into your existing TV. Whether it's the opening weekend for MLB or the NCAA basketball tournament coming up, you're going to want to have an Amazon Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free. That also includes all of us here at Locked On, and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels lets you dive into all of the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on all the latest in the world of sports. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, and cooking videos as well for all of you chefs out there. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, well, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit www.amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. First part of the show went long, but I think Kent and I like to pride ourselves on being the people's podcast. And so if a Fan Friday runs a little bit long, that's fine with me. I like people's voices being read and seen on this channel. We really enjoy interacting with Wolfpack fans. So now, women's basketball, they open their ACC tournament quest in Greensboro today on Friday. They do play Duke, as Duke was able to fend off a late comeback from Georgia Tech on Thursday. NC State split the season series with Duke. We won in Reynolds, lost recently on the road over in Durham. Kenton, what should we expect with NC State versus Duke here on Friday?
When you look at the women's basketball team this season, you can generally point out whether or not they're going to win or lose based on one simple thing. It's how the first quarter goes. That's how you can fairly accurately predict, hey, is NC State going to win this game or not? Okay. So with that in mind, the answer here is simple. It's not complicated. It is go in and show out from jump. This has been a tournament of everybody playing teams way too close, of everybody letting teams stay way closer than they should be or upsetting teams. For example, Louisville just barely eking one out against Boston College. Miami upsetting UNC. But guess what? You all cannot play around, cannot mess around, cannot muck around and say, well, we'll kind of figure it out. Well, we'll see what this Duke team can do late, because you will end up with another L. We started off the first quarter of that Duke game with an 8-point quarter. You cannot live like that. You cannot roll out of bed like that. And don't get me wrong, they did a fine defensive job to hold Duke to 13 points, but you have to come out of you have to roll out of bed ready to go. You're going to get their best ball. That is the reality. You're going to get everybody in the Triangle's best ball because you all are the preeminent team in terms of the women's teams in the ACC. People all of a sudden figure out how to be their best selves against NC State. So this state team has to come out of the gates, putting belt to behind, saying, we are the big dog on the block. You are the pups. Get the hell off our porch.
Greensboro is like a second home for Westmore. We know about the three-peat just a couple years ago. He has dominated Greensboro in March. I guess you could call it this decade so far. We need to fire that back up. Didn't get it done last year. It's time we revisit our winning ways, and that starts on Friday versus Duke. You look around the rest of the league, and we've talked about Kitley and what that might mean for Virginia Tech if she's unable to play at all. NC State is fully healthy. Everyone's back. River Baldwin is back to full health. Mimi Collins, back to full health. Obviously, Wolfpack Nation, we know, travels well. There's going to be plenty of red in the building. They're going to have the fan support. They have all the pieces they need to not only beat Duke, but then make a run all the way out to Sunday. We fully expect to be recapping this championship run this coming Monday. I don't want to speak too soon. We all know that they can get it done. They have the talent. They have the coaching. They got it all. Let's revisit this on Monday when hopefully Westmore takes home yet another ACC championship. Coming up next, we're going to round out our Friday show with baseball. They open their ACC play against Boston College here on Friday. After a quick word from our sponsors. Second sponsor of the day is LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for that role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals with a B, which makes it the best place to interview and hire. It gives you access to professionals you simply cannot find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of this while making the process quicker and intuitive. Hiring is easier when you have this many quality candidates to choose from. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within just 24 hours. That's why 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Last couple minutes here of our Friday show. Baseball opens ACC play today on Friday with a doubleheader against Boston College. Inclement weather moving into the area on Saturday. They decided to move Saturday's game over to Friday. They'll play a doubleheader Friday and an 11 a.m. game on Sunday. Now, obviously, we're looking to continue the momentum. Did not play a midweek game due to some players testing positive for the flu. Hopefully that has no weight on this series. It is obviously the first ACC series. It's time to get right because all of these games actually really matter now. You're playing for seeding from here on out. I did notice that they've decided to shift the weekend rotation on the mound. Logan Whitaker has been pulled back out of the bullpen. He will start game 1 on Friday. Sam Highfield will shift from the Friday night spot to, I guess, the Saturday spot, even though it will be the late game on Friday. He will cover game 2. And Dom Fritton will move down to game 3. He will throw on Sunday. Kenton, how significant do you think this is that Logan Whitaker has been moved back to a starting role?
You know, we talked about how these early games felt like they were experimenting and tinkering around. And when it came to the conference play, that's when we were going to get our best stuff. And I believe that's what's happening here with Logan being moved back into that Friday night slot. I think that this is Coach Avent's way of saying, hey, we're locked in. It's time. Let's do it. You know, no more messing around. No more. We want you to get some experience. No, we want to get wins. We want to get wins right now. So let's do it.
And not to say that Ryan Marone hasn't been solid. Obviously, true freshman that has been throwing on Sundays in game 3. He gets bumped for Logan Whitaker. I think Ryan Marone will likely become your new midweek guy, and that's perfectly fine. We have to play a lot of talented teams in the midweek coming up over these next couple months. So I look forward to seeing Marone dazzle in the midweeks against teams like maybe a Campbell or an ECU. I think that'll be a good spot for him. But yeah, Kenton, you hit the nail on the head here. It's go time, and you need your best pieces to be out there on these weekend games. So I think Logan Whitaker probably does give us a really good shot to set the tone on Friday nights. He is one of the most experienced pitchers we have on the entire staff, probably him and Sam Highfill, even though Whitaker's been healthier. So he has more experience than even Sam Highfill does. So obviously looking forward to keeping the bats hot. They've been carrying us through the non-conference. It's time to take it up a notch for ACC play. 3 games against Boston College. That'll do it for us here on Friday. That'll do it for us again for the week. Tons of comments this week. Thank you all so much for all the engagement, all the interactions. Thank you for listening. Be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you have not already. We are now hurtling toward 1,500 subscribers. Let's try and hit that before the month of March is over. That'll become our new goal here. So tell a friend to hit that subscribe button. That'll do it for us here this week. We will see you all on Monday, hopefully discussing a women's ACC championship. But until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.